I think pumpkin spice has been a point of discussion for too long.
It doesn't need to be the cultural touchstone that it has been.
Well, it's not like, hey, I hate pumpkin spice.
No.
Because first it was, I was sick of too much talk about pumpkin spice.
Yes.
Then I was sick of too much talk about hating pumpkin spice. And now I've gotten to the point where I'm sick of people saying, like, if you don't like pumpkin spice, you're against women's suffrage because it's all the same. And it's just a flavor. If you like it, cool. If not, don't have it. And that's all.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
It's true. And I like the flavor. I don't need to make it my entire personality.
I like it, but not with coffee. I like it for pie stuff, and I like it for tea stuff. I don't think it particularly goes well with coffee.
Oh, I think it's great with coffee. Or chai.
That'll do.
Pumpkin chai. Ooh, so good.
Yeah, tea-based, I think pumpkin spice works great. But you know what we're doing? We're just contributing to it now.
Just talking about pumpkin spice.
Oh my God, I can't get away.
It's delicious. Like it or don't like it. Have a nice fall.
Yeah, have a nice fall, everybody. And not just fall, Spooktober.
Yes, welcome to Spooktober, everybody. Ooh.
So welcome to another Spooktober episode of I Love This, You Should Too. My name is axe-wielding Indy Randhawa, and with me is Spooktober Samantha Randhawa.
Ooh.
Oh, there we go. Always spooking.
Always spooking.
So, did I say that this is I Love This, You Should Too?
Yes, you did.
Oh, well, it still is.
It still is. We haven't changed podcasts in the last 30 seconds.
And for our first Spooktober episode of the year, we're doing something a little different. We usually do things of the fortnight.
Yes.
Spooky things of the fortnight, but we're not going to do that this year. We're just going to do Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors.
Yeah. On an off note, I think my mic is in full Spooktober mode because it's very haunted right now.
Yeah, our audio setup is very haunted today, but I think it should still sound fine. So we'll talk about the first Treehouse of Horror episode, and we'll talk about the second one in 2 episodes. And today, Samantha will let us know what our first big Spooktober watch is.
Spooky.
Do we get a hint? Or I guess they don't need a hint because they're going to read it on the title of this
everyone
episode.
already knows. Indy doesn't know for once, so it's exciting.
I keep thinking for my full episode, spooky episode, to just do like 5 Treehouse of Horrors, but then we wouldn't get a good horror movie in.
True.
So I think we should do that and then just do a Treehouse of Horror 2 a year.
Yeah.
Forever.
Perfect.
And eventually we'll catch up. But
There's
we'll want to stop before
300 of them?
There is about 300. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, in season 300, we'll finally finish Treehouse of Horror.
Oh, but we're doing 2 per year.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
then
only
season 150.
Yeah.
And we will be 150 years old.
Because you are a baby now.
Yes.
Have you seen this one before? The first?
Yes.
Everyone has. I
think.
think.
A classic. I, as a child, was very into Edgar Allan Poe, so I feel like I saw this one because I heard that The Simpsons had done an episode about Edgar Allan Poe.
That surprises me.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because when we talk about things we read, you don't like old things often.
I went through a phase as a teenager. Loved.
Were you angsty? We're all black. No, you weren't gothic. No. We talked about this quite often.
I was like a pink tights wearing ballet kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I was just I read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe for a while.
Do you have a favorite?
I think. Oh, I can't think of the name now.
If you describe it, I might know it. I know my Poe as well.
The one where the lady is like talking to him through the house.
The Fall of the House of Usher?
Yes.
I love it myself.
That one and The Raven. The Raven is just good and I think that's like a gateway in.
Yeah.
Because it's like repetitive and it's like easy to read. Mm-hmm. And then I think I went from there, and I think Fall of the House of Usher is one of my favorites.
I wrote a big paper on that in my 300 level English class. It was good. I got an A.
Nice. Congratulations.
And now I will read it to you. Or we'll talk about The Simpsons. So if you somehow don't know The Simpsons, is it the longest running sitcom of all time now? It's something like that. It's been on forever, pretty much your entire life.
Yes.
So this episode was a part of their second season. It originally aired on October 25th, 1990. It's the only Treehouse of Horror episode to be set in a treehouse, unless they've gone back to it in recent years. I'm not as up to date on my new ones, but when we were doing this episode, you looked at my phone and you were like, how do you have this many notes already? And I said, well, I've already done my notes for the full episode.
We just hadn't watched it yet.
Not that I had watched it before. I can play it in my head.
Yeah.
And I know every line to it because it was that much a part of growing up for me.
I get that. That's, yeah. And I feel like this is the one that I've seen the most. Just because, like, when you think Treehouse of Horror, you start with the first one.
And with a lot of earlier things of shows that have been on this long, and maybe your favorite stuff is later seasons, I kind of worry, like, is the first season or the first version of this good? Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
When a show runs this long, and I've watched shows for a very, very long time, and I've been like, oh, it might be fun to do a rewatch. Not everything is rewatchable.
Yeah.
When you go back to those beginning episodes and you're used to the new stuff, it's like sometimes I've found shows like that like completely unwatchable. I'm like, I guess I'm never going to watch the beginning of this again because I can't get through it.
I think a lot of people don't like seasons 1 and 2 of The Simpsons. I think they're very good. The animation style, of course, gets more polished, and that's a little rough, but I think it's fantastic. And this is a perfect example. I think this is one of the best, although we're going to get into some real good ones eventually. But this one was fantastic. It was also the first Simpsons episode to have music by Alf Clausen, who, if you watch that show, you know he does all the music, but this is where he started.
Interesting.
So it starts off with that parental advisory, and Marge says something about, we'll tuck them into bed early tonight instead of writing us angry letters tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's like a joke, but also so sincere, because this was a part of the time where the president and first lady were complaining about The Simpsons. Like this, they thought was the erosion of American values was The Simpsons.
Wow.
And these seasons of The Simpsons, where it's, nothing terrible is going on, but they thought this was one of the biggest problems in America.
Which president?
This is still Bush, I believe.
Okay.
But it was him and Barbara Bush that were very critical.
Right.
And I think at one point, Marge like talks directly to Barbara Bush. There was like an episode, or it wasn't one of the episodes, but a preamble to one of their episodes.
Oh.
Saying like, I'm just a mother doing my best just like you are. Please stop.
Please stop yelling at me.
Yeah. So they needed to have that warning. And when you watch it, it is it's graphic at points.
Yeah.
It's spooky. Mm-hmm. It's actually kind of scary in some parts. And I think the idea of animated shows not just being for children, this was kind of the one, right? Mm-hmm. So people see cartoons, they think it is just for children, and then you watch this episode and it's gonna scare little kids.
Yeah.
Except for me, who loved it.
Yeah. I don't think I saw it until I was probably like 8 or 9. So I was an older kid as well. I don't think I ever found it scary, but I appreciated its spookiness, I think.
And then the way that was done was kind of a homage to the 1931 Frankenstein. There was a preamble then too, because like scary movies were still kind of new. So
right.
It's like, this is going to be scary, watch out. And then we get into the familiar introductions. And for the first maybe 5 years, they would do this bit with the tombstones. Uh-huh. And you get to, when you were a kid, you try to read all of the tombstones. And I, of course, had a VCR, so I'd record it and you want to watch it over. But in this one, it's Ezekiel Simpson, Ishmael Simpson, Cornelius V. Simpson, Garfield.
The cat?
I guess.
Oh, huh.
I guess Garfield was on the way out. Garfield was huge in the 80s. The Grateful Dead.
Oh.
Casper the Friendly Boy, which I think is a funny little bit.
That is funny.
Elvis.
Yeah.
Your Name Here.
Oh.
Paul McCartney.
Who's not dead.
I'm not sure if it was a joke or just a misunderstanding, but earlier, way back in Beatles times, people thought Paul McCartney had died.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know
So I guess
that.
it's a joke to that.
Okay.
Disco and violence on TV.
I like it.
And of course, the setup for this one is they tell spooky stories in the treehouse. And even though we don't see the treehouse later, they're all still called Treehouse of Horror, which is fun.
I didn't realize that there was no treehouse anymore.
Sometimes it's just a straight up 3 segments and there's no framing story, but they do the framing story for a little bit, and I think those are the best ones.
Like telling the story in the treehouse, you mean?
Not in the treehouse necessarily, but one time they're all at a Halloween party and they're telling the stories.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So just something that has the real world where these stories come from. And now it's just like, here's a Transformers thing, and it's also on Christmas. But
spooky.
yeah. So the first one, and I'm going to say my favorite, is Bad Dream House.
Oh, you were so excited when this title card flashed up.
I love it because I love haunted house spooky stuff. And it's hard to get right. And this is a perfect vehicle for it because they can do the spooky but also make it kind of silly. Because if you commit full on to a haunted house, because movies now, everything has to be full on serious. We don't really do horror comedy well. And this kind of walks that line nicely. I think it's hilarious, and I think the spooky gags are a lot of fun too.
I thought it was quite funny.
What I miss most from modern Simpsons Halloweens is that they don't really change how it looks. In this one, it's shadowy. They use a lot of playing with angles and lighting, and you don't see that in new ones. And that adds so much because it just looks off. It doesn't look like a regular Simpsons episode, which I love.
Because they're very bright.
Yeah. I feel like there are so many things where I just want to read out lines because I could just have the script in my mind of saying, oh, how about this one and this one? My first laugh out loud, I think, is when Bart is floating in the air being strangled by a lamp, which is also floating. And Homer says something like, let's see you talk your way out of this one, boy.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
I love how walls move around, how the walls bleed, how they change color. That's very Fall of the House of Usher.
I thought that was a funny ending to this one when he decides that he just wants to implode instead of living with the Simpsons. It was pretty funny.
I love Homer and his crazy axe face, which we're going to see a couple times throughout these two. In a house coat with an axe. I feel like that happens more than once.
Oh. Is that a reference to The Shining?
Well, it will be later.
Okay.
This one, I think, is mostly Amityville Horror and some Poltergeist thrown in there, too.
I haven't seen either of those.
Amityville is a good book. When it came out, it was huge, and that was the time when people believed it straightforward, and
that it was like a thing.
It kind of led into Satanic Panic times because everyone's like, yeah, this is all real, all of these things are happening and they're coming for your kids.
That would be terrifying because we know we live in a world where this is pretty common, scary books and scary movies and stuff. That would be so terrifying if it was one of the first of its kind.
Well, The Exorcist, too, was taken as... It was huge as a novel and as a movie. I don't think it's the first of its kind by any means, but maybe this was just striking at a time where people are willing to just say, yep, it's true now.
Yeah.
When Poe was writing, everyone's like, yeah, that was a good story. And then in the 70s, we're like, these are true stories.
One of my favorite parts of this was the vortex in the kitchen, and Homer throws an orange in there, and then it throws back a note that's like, please stop throwing your garbage in here. Sassy vortex.
I love when they get possessed and they all have the knives and the mislead of Marge just buttering toast or whatever it was, making a sandwich. And I love how she just goes, stop it. And then they all apologize.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved Maggie with the knife in her teeth.
Yeah.
It's like, Maggie.
Crawling and falling down with the knife. That, and this part didn't always exist on TV because I saw it only in later years. It wasn't on the original airing, I thought, when they find the Indian burial ground, and then he calls the realtor on the phone and said, you did? Oh, well, that's not my recollection.
Yeah.
The "that's not my recollection" is a really funny bit too. Or I love when spooky or scary moments in anger or menace have phrasing like that. Like, "that's not my recollection" is a very hard thing to shout at someone in rage, also when you're terrified.
Yeah.
Just like when the house says, and all sorts of stuff, possibly your brains. Possibly your brains. I thought was
Possibly
great.
your brains. That's so funny.
And then similar to the second one, it ends with kind of like, oh, now it's over and we, the Simpsons, could go back to our regular life. The Simpsons are still the Simpsons in this, which they kind of get away from later years. Should we get into our next macabre tale?
Yes.
I, for the longest time, didn't know what Bart was saying when he talks about his macabre tale. And I was like, oh, is he saying macabre? And he's just reading it phonetically?
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait, am I saying it wrong? Is it macabre?
No.
But as a kid, you don't know.
You don't know. And there's so many words. I feel like everybody has a word that they realize that they'd only ever read and never actually had to say out loud.
Macabre.
Until somebody is like, what?
Run like the wind.
Yeah. Everybody, I feel like, has something like that. And I feel like Bart saying it like that is just like so true
As a
to
kid
life.
would.
Yeah, like you sound it out. That's how you learn to read. And then you just say macabre forever until someone in like high school is like, what are you saying?
Well, the next macabre tale is Hungry Are the Damned, which is a play on a Twilight Zone episode, which is the name of which I forget now. To Serve Man? I think it is To Serve
Man.
Oh, you know that one.
Oh no, I'm reading it off of the screen in front of me because I did research.
The Twilight Zone is also fantastic. You've never really seen much, have you?
Not really. Maybe like an episode.
It's so good. And it was just Ron Serling. It was one man writing all of these, like writing an episode a week. And
Wow.
they're so good.
That's impressive.
Yeah, he was prolific. But right away, I am interested in this one because, again, it starts playing with lighting and making things look like no other Simpsons episode had looked like. We have a pink sky in one shot, and then we kind of get a twilight effect that looks great. Things have this green cast to them. I love the kind of Jaws track out effect where the camera goes away and the zoom goes in, or is it vice versa? But either way, that one where it looks like the background falls away from somebody.
Yeah.
And they do that with Lisa in this, and it creates a really interesting 3D effect that you don't see in a show like this. Yeah, I love the look of it, and I wish they would do that more often.
It was very cool to see them play with color a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Not that this isn't a very, very colorful show, but to see them...
But it's the same colors.
Yeah, to see
Switch it
them
up.
switch it up and like do some stuff that they hadn't done before, that I don't associate with The Simpsons, I guess.
And the first sight gag that I think of, there is the one of the lighter fluid or barbecue fluid for so long. That's a funny bit. And then the 2 tractor beams for Homer.
Yeah.
Because he's fat.
Because he's fat.
That's the joke. And we get the first introduction of Kang and Kodos.
So they're regular characters then?
After this episode, they appear in every single Treehouse of Horror.
Oh.
And oftentimes the joke is that they'll come at the end and be like, hey, you didn't put us in yet. Or do something like that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think this whole episode is a lot of references to old horror comics, but Kang and Kodos, as well as Sarok the Preparer, who we never see again, are all Star Trek names.
Oh.
And I love that Rygillian is the same as English. So we're speaking Rygillian right now.
Oh, yeah, that was funny because I feel like that's something that's skipped over in a lot of like aliens coming to Earth and us being able to communicate with them. That's like, it's a funny way to like tie up
coincidentally.
Coincidentally, it's the same language.
But in a later episode, they say like, we've been following you and we've learned to imitate you exactly.
But then that doesn't make any sense.
Well, then none of this is like canon.
True. Oh, yeah. Tree houses aren't canon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although that might not even be them. That might be tiny people who live on a tooth. I get confused sometimes. We'll get there.
Okay.
I just love all of the hints about how they're going to be eaten, like the shot where their heads are on the plates.
Yeah.
Your wife is quite a dish, all of that kind of stuff, only to have that kind of 4-layer misdirect.
Yes, with the cookbook.
Yeah, and that's kind of a comedic, not staple, because it's the opposite. Because usually you do things in 3s, and that makes it funny. Right? 3s are funny.
3s are so funny.
But this one goes to that 4th step, and that's why I thought that was hilarious. Like, wait, there's still more space dust on this book. I love little jokes about the aliens being kind of petty. Like, anyone who comes from a species who's mastered intergalactic travel, raise your hand.
Yeah.
And Marge saying, like, your game is very nice. And she just kind of has a look on her face. And it's not often in The Simpsons that you'll see someone make a slight facial gesture as a joke, because it's small, so it doesn't always play in something as big as this. But I like that bit a lot.
I think the cookbook was like one of my favorite parts of this. The like constant changing with the dust.
Yeah.
Was just like, it was perfect. How to cook humans, how to cook for humans, how to cook 40 humans.
How to cook for 40 humans.
Yeah. And then you feel bad for them when they're like, we were just trying to like treat you nice.
Yeah, and Sarok the preparer cries.
Yeah.
And they just go on and be like, oh, you could have had this, you could have had this. And Marge says, for an advanced race, they really rub it in. And this one also ends kind of on a bummer note of the Simpsons just kind of going on with their life.
Yeah.
Of like, well, I guess that's over. This is what I mean when we say you're too smart.
Yeah. I loved that one, and it made me feel really bad for the aliens. I don't know why, it just really did.
They're doing fine.
They're fine. They get to go to Rigel 2?
6? 7. Rigel 7.
Rigel 4.
Rigel 4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they ever are nice again. Not that I can think of.
The aliens?
Yeah.
Or the Simpsons?
Well, both.
Oh, that's interesting, because they seem so nice in this episode.
Well, they don't seem nice.
No, they seem sneaky and like they're up to something.
Yeah.
But then at the end, you feel bad for them because they were just trying to be nice.
But then they really rub it in.
Yeah.
Unnecessary. We should go to our final macabre tale.
Yes. The Raven. This one I still think is hilarious because Homer and Bart have that like father-son relationship where they're like very annoyed with each other. And it's very funny to see Bart being an annoying character in this.
It worked. It
worked really well.
Out, yeah.
Because you already know their dynamic, and then it's just like in another time and place.
Did you ever watch this in school?
Yes.
I feel like everyone in North America has, and that's weird.
Yeah, to watch The
think
Simpsons in
it.
school, especially an episode where they had to put a disclaimer in front of it.
But
to
it's
be
usually
like,
just this.
Oh yeah, no. But I mean, like, it's just funny that like this is the episode that they decided to show in school.
Because they're like, hey, literature, right, kids?
Yeah, they're like, this fits in my language arts curriculum.
I remember, I think it must have been 7th grade, where on Halloween, one of the teachers played it over the intercom for the whole school. And I was like, that's not a good use of our time.
Just visual medium,
hearing
too.
the audio of this. And also you could tell that they were just playing it on a TV and putting the microphone up to it. It sounded terrible.
Yeah.
And I just remember going like, I really like this episode, but this isn't a good use of your time. But anyway, do you want to talk some Poe, since you love Poe?
Sure.
So this is some trochaic octometer.
Okay, you've lost me.
8 trochaic feet per line.
So many feet?
Yeah.
All the feet.
And it's, what was it, always a A rhyme scheme, but on the B line you would have 3 internal rhymes. It's brilliant. I think it's very well done. And I think we watch this and you kind of forget that, oh yeah, this is actually really, really good.
I think literature. Yeah. Well, I did not know any of that.
I was an English major,
I didn't
remember?
get an English degree.
Finally, it's paying for it.
It's paying off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a really like nice poem to kind of listen to. And then the added visual just like makes it even better. I really, really like this one. And I liked the portrait of Marge as Lenore with the extra
frame for the hair.
And like, yeah, it was very funny.
And the Raven, we also kind of forget about the subject matter and about how sad this story really is, because it's about someone experiencing this conflict between the desire to forget and the desire to remember, of having something they will never have again and wanting to hold on to that memory because it was something so good, but also needing to forget because the idea of not having it is the worst of all.
Yeah and it's all very sad. But of course the Simpsons do add some moments of funniness.
There is some funniness of this guy who just starts weak and weary and then gets grief-stricken and eventually goes into a mad frenzy and goes insane, I think, is what happens.
I think so.
The effects of grief and knowing that that which you loved, once gone, will never return. And isn't that the scariest thing of all? Well, I don't like thinking about it.
No, me neither.
That is the single scariest thing to me. The two for me are being buried alive, and then just like you or like my mom dying, and then I just have to continue living.
Yeah, that's
the scariest
so
thing.
So scary. Yeah.
So when people say, "Oh, the Raven segment," that's not really scary. I'm like, no, that is.
If you really think about it,
terrifying.
Yeah, poor Lenore.
And of course, James Earl Jones is reading the poem, and he's in all of them.
All of the treehouses?
Of this one. He's in all segments.
Oh.
He's the moving guy in the first segment, and is he Sarek the Preparer, or is he that fourth alien that's unnamed? And he's an alien in that. So he gets to be in all three. And he just died recently.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's sad. No more aliens for him.
No, well, there weren't. He never came back to do another alien.
Oh. He did it too good in the first one. They were like, we can't top that. There's nowhere to go from
those
here.
other two aliens never come back. It's just King and Kodos after this.
Oh, okay.
Not that I've ever seen, that I can remember at least. One of my favorite bits, though, is, you know what would have been scarier than nothing? Anything.
Anything. That was funny. That was very, very funny.
And then again, I just loved how this one looked. They really play with the low angle and high angle stuff. Everything is long and looming.
It becomes like a funhouse, scary, like haunted creepiness of like proportion.
It's that German expressionism coming
Did I
through.
sound really smart there?
Yep.
That kind of made it seem like he was going crazy as he was actually going crazy. Did I just graduate from Indy's film school?
You're my best student.
Aw, I'm your only student.
No, you're all my students out there.
Yes, that's right.
And also, I work with students like every day.
Oh, I guess. I liked him trying to catch the Raven. That was funny. It was like classic comedy stuff, but in a very spooky way, which is this entire episode, I guess. Bart as the Raven is so cute.
He is pretty cute.
He's like too cute, I think, but it's nice to keep him like recognizable, I think.
And then that one ends and we get to go back to the treehouse, and of course Lisa and Bart are fine, and Homer is all scared and can't sleep.
Which is so funny that the kids are fine. Also,
it's odd that Homer was coming back from trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
And the kids are up in the treehouse hanging out.
He was trick-or-treating?
Yeah. Oh. Well, he comes back with candies, and he's saying, like, I think he comes home with a bag full of candy. Yeah. He's walking home and hears them up in the tree.
Does Maggie exist at this point?
Yes, she's there from the beginning. I assume she's inside with Marge.
Oh, okay.
And then the closing theme is played on a harpsichord, which I think they keep that going, too.
So spooky.
Yeah.
The spookiest of instruments.
I think the theremin's the spookiest of instruments.
Oh, yeah.
I'd go theremin, pipe organ, harpsichord.
Yeah. All those, like, big woodwind? Are they? No.
I think a pipe organ might technically be
a woodwind instrument.
Yeah.
Because it's got the big...
Harpsichord is percussion, but on strings. So is it a string instrument or percussive?
I think it's a string instrument.
I don't know. I'm not a instrument guy.
No, me neither.
More of a Simpsons guy.
More of a Simpsons guy. But yeah, I think the theme is so perfect, and I love when they do different things with this theme that's so iconic.
Now I just want to go watch the next one, which we will
soon.
And we'll talk about that in 2 weeks. But next week, we are going to talk all about Samantha's pick, which she's going to tell us right now. They can't see your posing.
I know. I was mostly stretching my back, but also I was just going to do this, and then leaned. Oh, sorry. I put my hands really high away from my hips, but still kind of on my hips.
That's the worst description.
I don't know.
Really high away from my hips, but still my hips.
Yeah.
That could mean everything I think that means is not what you were doing. But
don't worry about it.
What movie are we going to watch?
Okay, so I went back and forth because last year I didn't pick a movie because we did a series of movies, didn't we? Was that last year that we did Halloween's?
Well, we never did the Halloween series, so that definitely wasn't last year.
Elm Street.
Yes. I don't know if that was last year. That might have been 2.
Okay.
I can't actually
remember either. Anyway, feels like forever since I've picked a scary movie. It's not super scary, but it is kind of a dark comedy horror film, and with your comment from earlier, I'm a little worried about you thinking that this is good. But we are going to be watching the 2019 film Ready or Not.
We saw this in the theater together.
Did we?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. I guess I don't have a movie.
No, we're doing Ready or Not.
Okay, sounds good.
Which we saw in a theater together. So when you were saying you found something that I hadn't seen, the way you saw it was with me.
Yes. I'm the worst.
All right, Ready or Not. Tell us all about it as if I had never seen it.
So it is follows a bride who is marrying into a rich family who created a game, like a board game empire. And on the day of the wedding, they're all very mysterious and they all seem to have very like big personalities. And she doesn't feel like she fits in. And on her wedding night, she has to play a game.
A scary game.
Yeah. So things happen and we find out some things about the family. And it's a great movie.
I like your enticing without telling things of she plays a game and things happen and we find out things.
Yeah, it's great. I'm just trying not to ruin it.
You could say like, and then she has to play a game for her life.
Well, I didn't want to like make it that obvious.
I think if you look at any poster or any trailer, you'd probably get that. True. I assume.
Actually, yeah. No, you're right. They're all holding weapons on the poster.
Wow.
But yeah, so I rewatched it just recently because it came up on my Disney Plus as something that like I might want to watch as it's like getting into Spooktober. I think they start pushing the like scarier things.
Sure.
I rewatched it and I was like, this is like good and kind of funny. So I'm excited to see what you think again.
Yes. Do you remember what I thought? We did talk about it because I remember this well. Your father had actually seen it the same week, and then we went out for dinner with him and Nicole, and we talked about it.
Okay.
But you don't recall that?
I don't remember that, no. Sorry.
Well, your dad can listen to this one.
Yeah,
he
perfect.
Knows the movie.
Excellent. Okay, well, yeah, so we will be watching the 2019 film Ready or Not.
And it's currently available on Disney?
On Disney Plus, yeah. And I'm sure your local library also has copies.
It reminded me a lot of the movie You're Next, which came out a few years before. You know what? I'm not going to start comparing and saying how they're different because that's something for next
for the
week
main episode
after we watch it.
Excellent.
Because I've never seen it.
Okay, great. We'll see you next week when we talk about Ready or Not. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Ooh.
I'm not ready.